This is my latest book called No Way to Go. It's set here in South London, specifically here in Woolwich in the borough of Greenwich, and the climax of the book happens here down in the Woolwich Arsenal, very close to the Woolwich Ferry. But it starts on an estate further upriver, which I've called the Barrier Estate because it's just the other side of the Thames Barrier. Amber Long stared into the policeman's face. Her eyeshadow and lip gloss made it very clear that she was giving Thames Reach Academy a miss that Friday, which wasn't a drama day with Mr. Putrell. But they weren't sending the law round to the flats for skivers, were they? Mrs. Long? The policeman asked. Amber snorted. Do I look like Mrs. Long? So what game was her stupid father playing in prison, getting her mum a knock-up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Is Mrs. Long in? No, she isn't. Amber stuck out her jaw. Her mother, Deborah, Debs to her boyfriends, hadn't been home for a couple of nights. Do you know where she is, love? Do you know where Osama bin Laden is? And your father? Ask the governor of Marwood Prison. The policeman, young and pimply, was breathing deeply and his face was going blotchy. From his looks, this wasn't a cat and mouse game he was enjoying, the way some of them would draw things out when it was a half-dressed teenage girl they were talking to. I need to see your mother. Well, you can't. You'll have to come back. The PC looked both ways along the walkway. He glanced down at his radio, but taking another deep breath, he came out with it. Have you got a younger brother? Connor. He can't go to school. He got the boot. No one will have him. Can I come inside, miss? But the young policeman was already taking off his helmet and sliding past her into the narrow passage. As soon as they were in the kitchen, he said, I'm afraid I've got bad news. What's that? But Amber knew the answer as soon as she asked. She was bright. It wouldn't be her father, and it wouldn't be her mother. He'd asked where they were. And when he'd mentioned her brother, he'd said his name. It had to be Connor. Your brother, Connor Long. He's dead. The policeman reached out a hand to her shoulder but didn't touch. He's fallen off a balcony over at Riverview House. Paramedics said he died on impact. He didn't suffer, love. And Amber crumpled, not onto a chair, but down onto the floor. The silly little toe rag, she shouted into the tiles. Oh, the silly little fool! But straight off she was kneeling up again. No, he couldn't, she screamed at the policeman. He wouldn't! Not my Connor! He's too good a climber. He'd never fall off anything.